Okay, sorry folks who are watching this online. I just realized I wasn't recording, so I will post my notes on in front of Ezekiel for you who Ezekiel was in context. Because I'm not saying all that again. All right, so Judah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Is Babylon separate from the kingdom? I.e., so
Yes.
it's sort of west of Israel.
Correct.
So in Israel, then there's the northern and the southern. So it's Israel and Judah. And then Babylon is next to it.
Yes.
Okay.
So Babylon would be like a modern day, like Iraq.
Okay.
Where the kingdom of Babylon was, and of course they expanded their territory to take over.
See ya.
So is that like Babel is in there somewhere?
What'd you say, Dana?
That I was just
like the
saying.
Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
That would have still been in the area of where Israel, Judah is.
Okay.
Okay.
More than
I would have to do research. Yeah, cause
that's all right.
That's early. Well, it could have actually been Babylon. Like some of the stories, because Abraham originates from that same area. So it could have been. Now that after I said that it would be similar, it probably is that same area of Babylon, the Tower of Babel. We don't know exactly where it was, but yeah, the most ancient of communities that link to our scripture with Abraham, beyond, that kind of hits in that Tigris Euphrates area.
Right.
So Judah is this kind of pawn in the struggle of the ancient Near East for control and desired land. But then the people who are in Judah, except for during the exilic period, it was the rich and the well-to-do who were the ones that got carried away into exile, and they left behind the poor folk.
Didn't want to have to feed them.
Yeah, so there's a whole dynamic there too, which is often the prophets call out the people of God for their mistreatment of the marginalized. And that's one of the greatest incidents over and over again throughout the prophets that the people did, was mistreating the poor, the outcast, the widow, the stranger. Also during this time, there's going to be the two primary kings of Judah. There's going to be a king who's in exile, who is Jehoiachin, or as my Old Testament professor in college would say, Jehoiachin, and he would not punish him. Jehoiachin, because there's also a Jehoiachim, or something. Jehoiakim. So he's also Chin, so you can remember which one. And then there's also a king that's left behind in Judah, whose name is Zedekiah. And so you kind of got this dual king thing going on too in the background.
Where did
Say that one again.
Jehoiachin goes into exile.
He went to Babylon.
Yeah.
And Zedekiah stayed.
And Zedekiah stayed in Judah. And so, because of the context of them being a people, right? Because location was so important for the Jewish folks. Because you had a temple, that's where God was, is the whole of their universe, would everything they were and are was about that location, is the promised land. Their whole ancestors got there in the first place because God designed to be that way. And so they had witnessed the fall of Jerusalem. They've witnessed the destruction of the temple, and their whole way of life is brought to them. The sacrificial system, the priestly order of things, has now vanished. And now they have been carted off in mass to a completely different area world, about 400 or 500 miles away, which of course took a long time because they didn't have
500 miles away might have well been on the other side of the earth.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in that time. And so their whole kind of world has been shattered, shifted underneath them, as Glenn said. And so kind of underlying Ezekiel is the question, how can the people of God continue to believe in God who seemed unable to prevent all these terrible things from happening to them? So it's a theodicy question that is underlying the whole of the book of Ezekiel. And Ezekiel will start trying to answer these questions at the very beginning. So because Ezekiel is a very visual, descriptive, colorful guy, what I thought we would do, if you want to, I'm not going to force anybody to do anything, is what I thought we'd do is I would start by reading the first chapter. And then while I'm reading the first chapter, I want you to draw. You don't have to be able to. You know, I'm not looking for perfection.
Because I can't do it.
So there's a couple. Sorry, what?
Ernest Neal would say, Kate never could do anything.
Kate never could do nothing. That's what I.
Can't get such a mud and that needs book.
Everybody get. So.
Can't get such a mud and that needs book.
Yeah. So we have all kinds of scrapbook paper upstairs, so you can draw on the Christmassy side or the blank side, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be abstract.
Well, it will be.
You don't have to.
Talking Jackson Pollock.
I'm okay with Jackson Pollock.
I want to try to draw what
So
you're
I want you to try to draw however you are envisioning what I am reading. So we're gonna start.
I love color.
Change your plans.
What's the thing?
I'm
Well,
gonna
that's
read,
it. That's all
you're
right.
gonna draw.
See, this is what happens when you lead a study, then you get to be the one who knows. So if you are joining us online, you can pull out a piece of paper, pencil, pen, and I'm going to read the first chapter of Ezekiel, and just do your best to draw what you hear, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so Ezekiel chapter 1. Are you ready? All right. In the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, as I am among the exiles by the river Chebar, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. On the 5th day of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile King Jehoiachin, the word of the Lord came to the priest Ezekiel, son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Chebar, and the hand of the Lord was on him there.
You're gonna have to slow down.
Okay.
I just
Yeah, the heavens were open.
Okay. The heavens are. I'll pause. How about if I pause after a few verses?
What was that about the heaven?
And the hand of God was on Ezekiel.
This is gonna be interesting.
All right. It's all good. Okay. I'm going to move on. As I looked, a stormy wind came out of the north, a great cloud with brightness around it.
A great cloud or a great?
Great cloud. A stormy wind. A great cloud.
Okay. And then you said it had a brightness around
A
it?
brightness around the great cloud. You might have to be very a fire flashing forth.
This is when the spaceships come together.
We're getting there.
What's flashing?
Fire flashing.
Okay.
And in the middle of the fire is something gleaming like amber.
My fire and my hand look the same.
It's all right. It's all right.
I don't even have a hand.
Well,
I missed that part.
It's
my
okay.
hand looks like
It's
a
okay.
turkey's.
It's okay. All right. So we get
This is supposed to
we
be
get fire.
fun.
It's supposed to be fun. Awesome. I'm sorry. All I got is 12 colors. I don't have the 24 pack or the 64 pack. All right. So then, in the middle of it was something like 4 living creatures. This was their appearance. They were of human form. Each had 4 faces
Oh, that's not easy.
and 4 wings. This is where you have to get really creative.
It's not 7.
Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and and they sparkled like burnished bronze.
Well,
Okay, I'm gonna pause there.
This is a lot of work.
Okay.
this is fun though, I like this, this
I
helps
do
my
too.
mind, and then
I'm
that's
still
what it is.
working. I'm still working on 4 faces.
Okay, cast speed, that's gonna be interesting.
Triangle shape when you down.
Thank you.
Okay,
I just saw a bunch
so
of
here's
them,
gonna be
okay?
here's what their faces look like, because you know they have 4 faces.
Oh, wait, I didn't leave much space in those little four things.
Do all the 4 faces look the same?
So no, they do not. So 4 faces had the face. One was the face of a human being.
Oh, what?
One the face of a lion on the right side, the face of the ox on the left, and the face of an eagle.
Oh, those look like gospel people, aren't they?
They are exactly.
Okay, now wait a minute. Did you say one was regular?
One was human.
Human, okay, that's what I meant, regular.
Yep. One
Which
was
is no such thing as we all
one
know.
was
That's
one
all
was
right.
a lion, one was an ox, and one was an eagle. And yes, those are the same symbols that were used for the gospel.
I'm gonna do my imagination.
Oh my
Yeah, that's fine.
Mine
That's
looks
fine.
like-
Okay, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going.
I
Wait,
have to take
A
notes, I'm
human,
sorry.
a lion, an ox, and an eagle.
Yep, yep.
We don't have a white.
All right.
I've bagged the
All right.
color, I just do
It's
them
gonna
well
be
to get
it's
the
gonna be
ink.
hard to. I'm gonna keep going a little bit.
No, because that bottom block, I don't.
All right.
think it works, remember?
Their wings were spread out above. Each creature had 2 wings, each of which
Okay,
touched the
that's
wing of
exactly
another,
the debate. And don't forget, you're going
while
to
2 covered their bodies.
No, I had that image in a dream once.
Did you?
Yeah, only slightly different.
Okay,
Yeah, it's the
okay,
same thing with the wings.
Okay, I'll see that, that's fine.
Oh, we had one. We had her little Ezekiel vision going.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna keep going.
Okay, wait a minute.
I think
I'm
we're,
sorry,
I think
what
we're
did I
getting,
miss
I think
out?
we're already getting to the point of this exercise.
Yeah, this is,
This is
All
enough.
right.
yeah,
All right.
I get it.
All right, I'm gonna keep going. So they had wings that stretched above and 2 wings that were covering their bodies. And each moved straight ahead wherever the spirit would go, and they went without turning as they went. In the middle of the living creatures, there was something that looked like burning coals of fire, like torches moving to and from among the living creatures.
That was in my dream too.
I know, but you drew this.
Interesting. We're gonna have to learn more about Blake's dream in a minute. Alright, burning coals of fire, like torches moving to and fro among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and lightning issued from the fire. The living creatures darted to and fro like flashes of lightning. As I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures. One for each of the 4 of them. A wheel.
A wheel.
Wheel.
A wheel,
Wheels on the bus go
W-H-E-E-L.
round.
Yeah, sorry, that was that was from my Appalachian coming out. Wheel.
Just a little bit.
No, that was Appalachian. Occasionally that still comes out.
And where was the wheel?
It was below them. One for each of the 4. And as for the appearance of these wheels, it was like that of gleaming of beryl, and the 4 had the same form. Their construction was being something like a wheel within a wheel. Yeah. And when they moved in any of the 4 directions without veering as they moved. They're-
Segway.
Yeah, like a segue. So their wheels were tall and awesome, for the rims of all 4 were full of eyes all around. So these wheels had eyes on them.
Oh, man.
When the living creatures moved, the wheels moved beside them. And when the living creatures rose from the earth, their wheels rose. And wherever the spirit would go, they went. And the wheels went along with them. For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. And when they moved, the others moved. When they stopped, the others stopped. And when they rose from the earth, the wheels rose along with them. For the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Over the heads of the living creatures, there was something like a dome shining like crystal spread out above their heads. Under the dome, their wings were. Everybody's starting to give up. They're spread out above their heads. Under the dome, their wings were stretched out straight, one toward another, and each of the creatures had 2 wings covering its body.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes.
Was the dome over a foursome, or was it over the whole cloud they were hanging in?
Oh,
Four
over the heads of the
domes?
living creatures. So
Okay.
it was something like a dome. the one dome of the four creatures. Dana's still sticking with over there. Alright, so then they heard the sound of their wings like the sound of mighty waters, like the thunder of the Almighty. A sound of tumult like the sound of an army. When they stopped, they let down their wings. And there came a voice from above the dome over their heads. When they stopped, they let down their wings. And above the dome over their heads, there was something like a throne, an appearance like sapphire. And seated above the likeness of the throne was something that seemed like a human form. Upward from what appeared like the lines, I saw something like gleaming amber, something that looked like fire enclosed all around. And downward from what looked like loins, I saw something that looked like fire, and there was splendor all around, like the bow in a cloud on a rainy day. Such was the appearance of the splendor all around. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell on my face, and I heard the voice of someone speaking. And that will be chapter 2. So as you were...
He thought God was sitting on the throne. That's what he saw.
Yeah.
Well, if he saw my picture, he would never get that.
Could you describe that again, what he said he saw though?
Yeah, I'll read it again. Above the dome.
Splendor above the dome.
Yeah, so above the dome, over the heads of the creatures, there was a throne, in appearance like sapphire. And seated above the likeness of a throne was something that seemed like a human form. And upward from what appeared like the loins, I saw something like gleaming amber, something that looked like fire enclosed all around. And downward from what looked like loins, I saw something that looked like fire, and there was a splendor all around, like the bow in a cloud on a rainy day. Such was the appearance of the splendor all around. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord.
Appearance, likeness, something
This is
like.
the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. So the reason I had you try to draw this, and David's still with us.
You wanted us to be crazy.
Sort of.
That's all right.
No, I think so. Just like it wasn't easy for you to keep up, it wasn't easy for those who heard this or read this for the first time either.
It was something like, but not really.
Yeah, and it's hard to visualize what's being described. So why do you think Ezekiel would choose to describe things in this way?
Because it was so outstanding, it was so outrageous that he was probably telling it the best he could. Don't you think?
It was big. I mean, it's something big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I heard the voice of the Lord.
Yeah.
Real big.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things. Like he's pulling, of course, from like tradition of theophanies of God that's found before you get to Ezekiel. So like the cloud, the storm, the fire. Those are like symbols you get in like the tradition of Mount Sinai, right when Moses goes out.
When he was leading the Israelites out,
Yeah, the pillar of fire, right?
With the fire, and then
The cloud. And then you get those images in Job
the stuff dropping
and
down.
Elijah too. So some of it he's pulling imagery that they would have been familiar with. I think too he's trying to help them understand that there's no human being who can describe the indescribable one. Yeah, so like what he's trying to tell them is beyond description, and he's going to prove it by giving them all these things that they can't even. Yeah, all these things they just can't.
I was having trouble. Not that I'm not having trouble with this anyway, lately, but you can't process it all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's why I said, could you slow down just a little? But the other thing is that, again, I'm not sure that, who is to say that God is not, I think God is probably of all the universes, and that it wasn't more of a spaceship coming, that maybe another Earth had blown out, and they were coming to see if this one was doing better, and they could put people here, or whatever. I don't know, but I just feel like that's a possibility. And then again, it wouldn't matter if it was God or some prophets on a spaceship. It was too outrageous for him to describe any other way. He just had to
And
send it.
that's why I like a lot of the I'll call it high church for lack of a better word, music, because God is so grand, and we need to be getting that, and I get it through music a lot of times. The hymns, and I like all the music we sing in church, but I just sometimes need that, to see the grandeur through music, like the Messiah, or something big. I think that's why
I agree, and I see that in the old Catholic churches certainly, or even in a stained glass window, or in Europe, they're just so grand.
well, in Italy, when we were
Well,
there.
right, but then I heard lots of people saying in Italy, as we were walking through these places, going, what a waste of money. This could be feeding people, blah, blah, which it could be, but at the time when they were built, and all the gold that the Catholic Church has amassed, at the time when they were built, they were trying to explain the stories, and most of the, my brain's starting to blow up.
Remember everything they said.
Or I'll tell you how to get it on the.
Just color it for me.
Yeah, here, you wanna take my picture and
No.
tell me?
That's actually pretty good.
Thank you, though. Hopefully this is the lesson.
There's no, am I picking you up tonight?
6 o'clock?
If you want to. Ninth grade's at 6 o'clock, I think JV's at 7:30.
Oh, there's no bar.
Cole's just coaching tonight. Okay.
So I think too that like, when you're trying to describe something that is so outside of the realm of human experience, words obviously are really limiting.
Right.
And sometimes art, if we're just talking about, can go further, get closer. But even in this case, it's like art isn't enough.
Yeah.
The colors, the visual, not even close enough.
Art isn't even
It's
enough.
still just, it's kind of like,
That was like yesterday, I was up there talking to the pastor, and my whole thing was I'm a visual person, okay? Reading this, and visually, she Googled Ezekiel's visions, do that, do that.
Kind of fun, creative.
Oh, it was so awesome, but
Would the Assyrians been way before this?
They were, so
They were one of
the
first
Babylonians the Assyrians get conquered by the Babylonians, so they're all about the same time, but they were different powers.
There's so many, petroglyphs, which is not what they were called in that part of the world, but petroglyphs showing there are a lot of things of Syrian descent.
Yeah,
And that
so
they're showing a lot of the stuff, and it's all just done in one, it's etched in a wall of stone, so you can't even get all the color and stuff. But again, that's where they say it just seems very obvious to some scholars that it is, they're spaceships.
so he's pulling from his culture when he's describing this.
Right.
So he is using these creatures that he pulls out are in all the art and this reliefs and the things you would have found in the ancient Near East.
Right.
But I think for Ezekiel's purposes, what's more important than the creatures themselves and their identity is how they're moving. Because we'll get into that as you get into the second. Because he spends a lot of time describing
The wheels.
the ways they're moving, the wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
So the wheels also, like, you have to almost envision it like you got the wheels on the bottom, then because they're right there underneath the creatures, then you got the creatures, and above the creatures was the dome, and this is all kind of connected in some ways. And then above the dome is the throne, when upon the throne is what appears to be the glory of God, right? He never really says he sees God, he sees God's glory. And so what's important, as we will come to read later in chapters, is he's trying to communicate something with their movement, which is if their question is, how can we believe in a God who would allow these things to happen? I think he's trying to begin to communicate something about God to them. And I'll spoil a little bit. In later chapters, we're going to hear that God left the temple in Jerusalem And God is there with them, right? So this is him saying, God is right here in Shabar. I'm seeing this here. Like, this is not just something we would expect to see in Jerusalem. So that movement, right? Because God was in the temple where God was.
Right, in body.
Yeah.
That only certain people could see.
And he was encased.
And the temple was flattened. So where is God is part of the question.
Right.
And Ezekiel is saying, you can't really contain God, right?
Yeah.
And God is here. And so, like, I think some of this whole imagery is just a communication of kind of where is God. Of course, the eyes are important symbols too, which of course
God
indicates
sees everything.
exactly the omnipotence of God,
Yeah.
all things, right? And all directions, right? Yeah.
Even the inside.
Yeah. And
Or like a mother who has eyes in the back of her head.
that too. Yeah.
Great.
Teachers.
And so I think too, like, he's very explicit, and I love that part too at the end, where he says, this was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord.
Right.
He's also trying to communicate through this otherworldly vision God's transcendence, that God is wholly other, and we can see God's glory, but we can't fully perceive or conceive God. We just don't have that capability because we're finite human beings. And so I think that's a lot of why, I think it's one of the reasons why Ezekiel uses such rich imagery. It's because he's trying to make a theological point to those who are reading.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like all the stuff that they're questioning that he could have been. It could have just been that he was an artist.
Yeah.
And this is what he is seeing, and again, there's so few words we know to use, and so he being an artist was trying to describe it.
Yeah, because also, I'm glad you said that, because among the folks who were taken out of Jerusalem into exile would have included the artisans,
Right.
right? They wouldn't have been left behind because they would have been considered too valuable. And so there is a possibility he was an artisan along with being a priest and a prophet. He had some sort of gift.
You know what he is? An app.
He's an app. He just,
Artisan, priest,
yeah.
prophet.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
In today's day, he's an app.
Yeah.
What do you look up on Google?
Ezekiel's vision. Just Ezekiel.
Well, I'm good tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go basketball first.
You are, well,
It's so fun.
I'm doing it right before I go to sleep.
Yeah, me too.
we will not let you go to sleep because you will just be so
Oh, I can't wait.
and just.
I watch Ancient Aliens right before I go to bed, so I can do it.
There you go.
All right.
Sure.
So we'll finish up our time together by reading the second, third chapter. So so we've got this description of God being wholly other, but then, of course, like any good prophet, or most of the prophets, maybe it isn't like any good, but most of the prophets, Ezekiel has a call story, and that's what we hear in chapters 2 and 3. Would someone else like to read?
I have a question
Yes,
first,
go for
okay? Why did he write everything when it's him speaking, or saying the Lord is speaking to him, the Lord is saying, stand up, son of man?
Why did you say Son of Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed that in my intro, so freebie. So
But every time Ezekiel, he gets word and he's telling everybody, he's telling them that the Lord says to him, stand up, son of man.
you want me to know why he's called Son of Man, or you want me to know why he's telling people what he was called? I'm trying to get the heart of your question.
I think that he was,
Why does the voice say, stand up, son of man?
because he wants him to stand up and tell it, and he is not a son of God, he is a son of man.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I
so all throughout Ezekiel, and I skipped this on accident in my notes, Ezekiel is called Son of Man, or O mortal, right? Which is again this communication that God is wholly other than Ezekiel. So Ezekiel is hearing and to share the word of God, but he is not God.
Right.
He's the mortal one who's becoming the the mouthpiece for that. So it's a differentiation title, I guess, is a joy opening. It's a way to, for Ezekiel is saying, I think it's Ezekiel's way of being humble. I think in some way, like God, yeah, he's putting in his message, he's putting himself in the right, he's trying to put himself in the right place. And it's God putting Ezekiel in the right place too, right? Because it's God the Son of Man or mortal. Yeah. Good question. And I would have answered the thing if I didn't accidentally skip that 5 minutes. All right, we're going to do chapters 2 and 3. They're both short, so we'll get through them.
He said to me, dude, stand up on your feet. Well, he said, son of man, stand up on your feet and I'll speak to you. As he spoke, the Spirit came into me and raised me to my feet, and I heard him speaking to me. He said, dude, son of man, I am sending you to the Israelites, the rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. They and their ancestors have been in revolt against me to this very day. The people to whom I am sending you are obstinate and stubborn. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are a rebellious people, they will know that a prophet has been among them. And you, son of man, do not be afraid of them or their words. Do not be afraid, though briars and thorns are all around you, and you live among scorpions. Do not be afraid of what they will say, or be terrified by them, for they are a rebellious people. You must speak my words to them, whether they listen or fail to listen, for they are rebellious. But you, son of man, listen to what I say to you. Do not rebel like that rebellious people. Open your mouth and eat what I give you. Then I looked, and I saw a hand stretched out to me. In it was a scroll, which he unrolled before me. On both sides of it were written words of lament, and mourning, and woe. And one of the things about the Son of Man part here, it says you're just a mortal among them, you're just a man among them. You don't be afraid of that. I mean, it's really also showing that although he's vulnerable, he's just a human being in a world where there's a lot of danger. He still does what he has to.
Yeah. So we're going to pick up chapter 3. We'll keep going.
I don't mind keep reading unless somebody wants to. And he said to me, son of man, eat what is before you. Eat this scroll. There's a whole lot of scroll eating.
There's a lot of scroll eating. Yep.
Then go and speak to the people of Israel. I opened my mouth and gave me the scroll to eat. Then he said to me, son of man, eat the scroll I'm giving you and fill your stomach with it. So I ate it, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth. And then he said to me, son of man, go now to the people of Israel and speak my words to them. You are not being sent to a people of obscure speech and strange language, but to the people of Israel. Not to many peoples of obscure speech and strange language, these words you cannot understand. Surely, if I had sent you to them, they would have listened to you. But the people of Israel are not willing to listen to you because they are not willing to listen to me. For all the Israelites are hardened and obstinate. But I will make you as unyielding and as hardened as they are. I will make your forehead like the hardest stone, harder than flint. Sorry, that's just kind of, most people don't want to be thought of as hard-headed. Do not be afraid of them or terrified by them, for they are a rebellious people. And he said to me, son of man, listen carefully and take heart to all the words I speak to you. Go now to your people in exile and speak to them. Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says, whether they listen or fail to listen. Then the Spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a loud rumbling sound as the glory of God rose from the place where it was standing. It was the sound of the wings of living creatures brushing against each other, and the sound of the wheels beside him, a loud rumbling sound. The Spirit then lifted me up and took me away, and I went in bitterness and anger in my spirit, with the strong hand of the Lord on me. I came to the exiles who lived at Tel Aviv, near the Chebar River, and there, where they were living, I sat among them for 7 days, deeply distressed. At the end of 7 days, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, I have given faithful watchman for the people of Israel. So hear the words I speak, and give them a warning from me. When I say to a wicked person, you will surely die, and you do not warn them or speak out to dissuade them from their evil ways in order to save their life, that wicked person will die for their sin, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. If you do not warn the wicked person, and they do not turn from their wickedness or their evil ways, they will die for their sin, but you will have saved yourself. Wait a minute, did I read that right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you do warn the wicked person, and they do not turn from their wickedness or from their evil, oh, I see, I got it. So if you don't warn them, you're responsible. But if you warn them,
They do.
okay. Right.
Yes, it's
Right.
on them.
You're, not blaming you for that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, got it. I only blame you if you don't do what it tells you. Again, when a righteous person turns from their righteousness and does evil, and I put a stumbling block before them, they will die. Since you did not warn them, they will die for their sin. The righteous things that person did will not be remembered, and I will hold you accountable for their blood. But if you do warn the righteous person not to sin and they do not sin, they will surely live, because they took warning, and you will have saved yourself. The hand of the Lord was on me, and he said to me, get up and go out to the plain, and there I will speak to you. So I got up and went out to the plain, and the glory of the Lord was standing there, like the glory I had seen by the Chebar River, and I fell face down. Then the Spirit came into me and raised me to my feet. He spoke to me and said, go shut yourself inside your house, and you, son of man, they will tie with ropes. You will be bound, so that you cannot go out among the people. I will make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth, so that you will be silent and unable to rebuke them. They are rebellious people. But when I speak to you, I will open your mouth, and you shall say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Whoever will listen, let them listen. And whoever will refuse, let them refuse. They are rebellious people.
So here is Ezekiel's call narrative, and you will actually in Isaiah, what you get him saying, "Thus says the Lord." In Ezekiel, most of the time Ezekiel speaks. I won't say all because I'd had to read all of it before I made a statement, but most of the time before Ezekiel speaks, the Spirit is the one who empowers him to speak. For in this case, God says, I will make you speak. So that's another reason, did he answer your question about the Spirit making him stand up? Is Ezekiel is recognizing that it's the Spirit of God that empowers him to fulfill his role as a prophet.
Yeah.
And that it's the Spirit who gives him kind of the energy, the message that transports him. The Spirit's the one who's kind of energizing him for the work that he's called to do. As is really the case for all of us. But
Doesn't the Spirit blow the life into a baby, and then the Spirit takes the soul away at the end? Or the soul becomes a spirit and goes away. Right.
Or separated from our power with God,
Yeah. And also in Hebrew, the word for spirit, ruach, is also the word for breath, right? So what gives us life is breath, right? That's why in Jewish thought, it's only once you have breath that you are a living human being, right? Because that's what makes you alive, that breath, that spirit. So similar thing too, is that the Spirit is what gives us life as the people of God. So the scroll,
Well, he made Adam out of dust, but he breathed them. Yeah.
And we'll get that too, right, later in Ezekiel. One of the most famous passages of Ezekiel is the dry bone, right?
Yeah.
And so there's that breath and spirit in that. And that kind of happens. Dead bones and dry bones. Maybe. That's something get creative that way. Thanks for giving me the idea. I'll make Judy sing. No, you gotta do a little interpretive dance to it.
We did. When I was growing up in this
Did you
church,
really?
we
Well,
learned how to do.
How about
They
that?
were like,
Yeah,
yeah.
we did, yeah,
I
we
just
did.
made that up, but okay.
No, we
I'm gonna
did.
write that down. Interpretive
There
Greek.
really is, there really is.
Well, I said yesterday at the, what was yesterday? What did we do yesterday? The grief group.
Grief, yeah,
I
we-
said, yeah, next week I wanna come in.
That's
and
why.
interpret.
That's kind of why I said it.
But
I'm
I don't
joking.
think my knees can do the dry bone. They were dry. They were bone on bone. Now they're just coming back to life.
Yeah. So,
I hope
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Please, Lord.
So in this call, right, so the Spirit is who gives him kind of what he needs to fulfill this, but he's also handed a scroll that he's told to eat.
And I don't think he's really eating paper, do you all?
No, I'm okay either way. If I'm gonna believe that there's spaceships, then I also gotta believe.
Yeah, but I just think
Well,
that he's
what,
giving
the
the
scrolls
scroll.
made out of papyrus or
Yeah, papyrus. And it was,
papyrus, which is
just a leaf.
a vegetable.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking,
But he
I-
digested it. It's something that he had to take into his human body and digest.
but don't you think those are just, that's just him saying, take this and learn it, eat it and know this language and then, yeah, I think it was just,
More likely metaphorical, because most of this stuff might be,
Yeah.
unless we are talking about spaceships.
yeah,
And then we're talking about, actually ate the scroll.
yeah,
Yeah.
food source.
Right.
I love the Bible study.
Yeah, but it does say scrolls.
Scrolls
It
on
doesn't say
there.
Scrolls,
tablets.
yeah, scrolls.
Scrolls.
So,
But somewhere it said tablets and,
Tablets would be,
yeah, tablets would be probably breaking his teeth.
Right,
yeah, you probably break your teeth on those.
right.
Dudley's
it was
like
made
thinking
out of
about his
limestone.
teeth when he's told to eat the scroll.
You can
Um,
crumble limestone.
So the scroll he's told contains lamentations, woes, and dooms written on both sides. So there's a lot of bad news,
Wow.
right?
So is that the news or is that God's own motivation?
So, because as we'll hear what he's told to say, right? Because if you look at in your little descriptors, right? So the next bit, right, we're going to learn about, he's going to be telling them that destruction's coming. Then there's oracles of judgment and woes, right? And as the prophets do, they get to the good news eventually. So there is also oracles of restoration. But yeah, I think he's preparing Ezekiel, right? And I think that's why God tells him, like, I'm going to make you hard-headed and hard-hearted, because he knows it's going to take a lot of resiliency to communicate the messages he's got to communicate
yeah, and you're
to
gonna be
people.
eaten alive.
Yeah, because the people aren't going to want to hear it, right? If they hear it, great. If they don't, great, as long as you say it, right?
Right.
So
But
he's giving
they're
some
not
grace.
necessarily gonna like or believe him.
Yes.
You might be real mad, and look what they did to Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's interesting too is he's given these scrolls to eat that are full of woes and dooms and lamentations, and then at the end of verse 3 of chapter 3 it says, and fill your stomach with it. It says, then I ate it, and in my mouth it was as sweet as honey.
Right.
I'm not sure if,
Those limitations usually come across you.
yeah, right. I would think better, right?
I don't think, yeah.
No, the outcome
It's sweet because
is sweet.
because
But
he
the
told you
outcome
it was
will
told.
be of going through all of those things.
Yeah.
It's the last thing you taste, it's the aftertaste.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it.
And then it's like, and he did what he was told, and if he can convince all these other people to do what they're told, then everybody's gonna come out smelling like honey, tasting like
Tasting
honey.
like honey, smell like this.
Well, to me, the limitations and stuff like this, sweetness that the people who are so obstinate, and it's the obstinance itself that is bitter, you know?
But you're gonna have to go through the bitter to get to the sweet.
Well, and the bitter,
Ezekiel.
and the sweet ends wins in the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a metaphor to it.
And I wonder too if that gets if for Ezekiel, like if almost like an assurance,
Right.
right? Like it's what I'm calling you to, Ezekiel, is hard. But if you do what I say, you do what I'm calling you to do, there's going to be some good that comes out of it.
Well, that's, okay, that's the whole Bible in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah.
If you do what you have been commissioned to do, or accepted, or whatever, you have a home in glory. No matter what you go through.
That's the traditional wisdom.
Everybody that wants to rebel against it is.
Don't even go there.
Okay.
Don't even go, you know.
Vanity, vanity, it's all vanity.
No.
Yeah, and you get both. There's some good spots in Ecclesiastes, but yeah, overall, Ecclesiastes is not good news. But yeah, I think.
Should we do that next?
I'm for it. I love
Oh.
Ecclesiastes. Oh, we gotta get real quick. We gotta be kind of nice next time.
Yeah.
I'll pick a nice book in the New Testament, and we can do.
Okay, something
Okay.
short.
Well, yeah, we'll go for these short.
Titus.
Titus is really short. 1 week of Titus.
Philemon.
There you go.
Shorter.
Philemon's
1
not even
hour.
a-
Philemon
Never
an
gets
hour.
enough credit, right?
No, yeah.
Oh goodness. So I love that detail because it makes you think.
Yeah, right. Things aren't what you think they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it makes me,
And then yeah,
and especially, like right now, living in kind of troubled times, the reassurance that there's more to this than you think.
Yeah.
There's,
I mean,
yeah.
for all we
It's not what it
know,
looks
this,
like on the surface.
for all we know, this is like a repeat of what's happening now.
Oh, I think there's no.
You know, a repeat what is going on right now.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't just love for coincidence.
No.
We picked Revelation and Ezekiel.
it kind of worked out. Yeah, I mean,
You know, it's,
well, and this is part of scripture too. Is like we as people are what they call stubborn and obstinate, right? Is what the Israelites are called. And that's
Rebels.
not rebels, the rebellious hearts.
yeah.
Have we changed much?
No.
No, right? And so
And that's why I want to say, do you not know what this says?
Well, that's the thing too, is because, right, I think that vision of the scrolls and born, like Ezekiel's called to internalize, right, what God's telling him, to take it in. And I think that maybe the issue at hand is, like, we as people are so hard-hearted, hard-headed, we don't internalize what we're told. And if we don't internalize
it and let that become part of you.
yeah, and that's where I think real transformation happens in our lives, is when we make it a part of who we are. It's more about who we are becoming, right? And I think with the Israelites, over and over again, they forgot. God said to them, if you just do these things, which were a good way to live, it's essentially saying, this is the way you treat people, this is the way you worship me, this is how you live in, peace and harmony, then things are going to be okay. And they don't listen, and they go this other way, and then things aren't okay. And God comes back and says, I'm going to forgive you. Let me try again. If you do these things, if you worship me, if you follow my commands, which is all about living in great relationship with one another and with me, if you do these things, are going to be okay. And it works for love, and they forget you. So it's like this constant repetition. And I think that is why we kind of see those like ebbs and flows in our own, like if you look over history. There's periods where we get it right for a little bit, and then we kind of forget what getting it right looks like, and then we forget those things.
I get the thrown back at me. Yeah, but if God is so good, why does he demand that you worship him? I go, I don't know. That's just part of it. But if you're doing what you're told to do, which is to love God and love your fellow man and take care of things.
What's the definition of worship?
I think just loving and obeying, which I didn't say in my wedding. I'm really sorry.
I didn't use that word either.
Oh, good.
That wouldn't have flown very well. No, we used different.
But what is worship?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's love and obey.
one thing I like about this is that, you know, it's just a matter of, you do the bit that I've given you, and the result isn't up to you. You know, sometimes the magic works, sometimes it doesn't, but nevertheless, you're faithful to me, you just do what I've given you, you know?
My promises to you in eternal life.
Yeah.
You know,
The abiding with God wants is the, all you have to do. You know?
Yeah.
And then the rest is, you know, between God and whoever.
whoever else, yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to learn this in ministry, but one of my mentors in ministry said like part of ministry is learning what's God's, what's yours, and what's other people, right? Because if we get out of those balances in our lives, even beyond being a pastor, if we try to do what's God's, if we try to do what someone else's, then we get kind of lost in the weeds. If we focus on doing what is ours, to be faithful, to abide, to obey, to love, that's when we're kind of in that sweet spot of life.
You know, it's just like, an example is parents or a mother that has a child that's gotten into drugs. And she's done everything that is humanly possible to save her child. The one thing she hasn't done is turn it over to God and put her faith in God.
That doesn't mean the child's addiction follows you.
Yeah,
Well, I know,
and
I
how
know,
do we know that
but-
she didn't?
Huh?
How do we know she didn't? And again, that becomes
Yeah.
God's, mine, and the other person.
Right.
So,
I think one of the places that falls down is, and I'm thinking about my own experience really, is, you know, you think that you are being faithful, but it's not working. You know, and so then you start to question,
Why am I
well, what's the point? You know, or maybe I'm doing strong, maybe I need to rethink this and find an answer elsewhere, you know? And just be
Are
able
you,
to kind of rest in that
or are you
really
asking the right
centered
questions?
place of knowing
Yeah.
what you were made to do, made to be. And how do you abide in that place sometimes? You know?
Well, it's hard.
I get it.
I get
I
it.
have a friend who, through our phone tree, got in contact with us last night. Her 38-year-old daughter was life flighted to a bigger hospital facility. She has fought addiction, alcohol and drugs, since she was probably 14. So's the dad, but that's a whole other subject. The mother has taken care of Abby and taken care of her other 4 children. And so last night, she's been put on life support, and so we've all been up all night praying. And I told them that I would tell you all today that maybe we could pray for Abby and her mother and her siblings. Whew. It's amazing, and you know, and it doesn't matter if they're 38 or they're 62 or they're 16.
Yeah. You know, I've got a real good friend going through that now with her daughter and her granddaughter. Mother and daughter are both addicted. Mom has finally in a secure rehab center. The daughter has been in Rivendell 3 times. She's 15. And she has been released out of Rivendell. And she's going to live with her grandmother. And one slip up, she's gone at 15 years of
It's
age.
just amazing, isn't
And
it?
I've been praying for these
Yeah,
three.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
addiction. And that is the devil incarnate.
Yeah, it is.
But loving someone with addiction is actually a perfect model of what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Good time to transition. So we'll pick up with Ezekiel next week. We'll do chapters 4 through 11. We won't, of course, read out loud all of them. We'll kind of pick and choose.
Will there be coloring next week?
There won't be color, but we'll do some sort of activity. You guys like that?
Should
I'm gonna do my
should
best.
I go buy a gaz-
Something every week.
Zoom?
No. Let's say next week will be more acting. Acting.
Oh, have mercy.
I just try to
Oh,
keep
listen,
it. Just try to keep it fun.
This is the third time I've read Ezekiel, okay? And, well, and I'm on chapter 16 now. Oh, is that where I'm at? Yeah, 16. So, and it just dawned on me
So if you read ahead, you will know why I'm picking charades as our next activity. So, yeah, just read chapters 4 through 11.
You just remember that we have people in here with bad needs, bad bags, bad shit.
It's all voluntary. I'm not gonna make people do things they can't do.
No, but we're gonna try.
Sure. Just try to make
This
it
group
fun.
is very open and
I
very.
know, that's what I'm trying to do. I think you guys get
Here,
tired of
you
me
want
just
our
talking to
pictures
you.
and post?
Yeah.
No.
There's no names on them, she cannot identify.
I was willing to display mine on the wall somewhere.
Yeah, we can do it.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, and just think, y'all did this in Bible study?
Yeah.
This is.
How old are you?
Right. I've done artwork a few times before. It's fun.
Well, you know.
Wow. What does that
Here.
say about you?
You wanted it,
I
you
do.
got
I
I was
love
it.
really bummed out
Like
because
Will.
That's why I didn't wanna show y'all, cause I don't want you to know what it says about me.
Sure.
Well, that one corner, now I've already lost mine.
Page, but it's all congested up.
Well, mine's all
There it is.
congested
That's
right
it.
there.
Mine got congested.
I'm just thinking, see, I tried to use them all,
Yeah, I like it.
but then I
Well,
realized.
you started like me with the river.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did too, yeah.
And then, forget that, it just.
Yeah, just down by the
But at least we
riverside.
all have a flowing path out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the river too.
We're all down by the river.
Then she's going as fast as trying to call the river and then
I
she
was,
kept
and
going.
all the stuff was coming up.
Yeah, I know it. I gotta move on.
I got the